In the forecast from last week, I mentioned 16, 17 and around 19 October as more critical days, and that seismic activity could potentially reach mid 6 to 7 magnitude. Indeed, we had a 6.4 on the 16th off the coast of Central America, and early on the 20th, in the morning of the 20th, a 6.8 south of Panama. And both occurred at the southeast end of the Cocos Plate. Here on the map we see the Cocos Plate, that's roughly this region here. And at the southeast end, this 6.8 south of Panama, and 6.4 occurred just a bit more off the coast. Interestingly, since 8 October, atmospheric peaks seem to point to the west coast of North America. And these peaks are marked in red here. A little bit of an M-shaped peak each time there. And there one was in the making on the 16th. And if we draw the line from North America to the south end of Chile, that's this line here roughly, we see that the seismic activity magnitude 6 earthquakes occurred to the east on the Cocos Plate. And this is also a perfect example of what we can and cannot do. We can isolate a rough longitude, and seismic activity may occur around that line, but also a little bit to the left or to the right. And we certainly cannot forecast exact locations. We do not have the means to do that. People keep asking, what about this city? What about that area? If we're lucky, we can have clear atmospheric readings like this one, and that may indicate upcoming seismic activity roughly along that line here. And that's what we also mentioned in this update on Telegram in this case. Unfortunately, atmospheric readings are not always clear, and also seismic activity can deviate quite a bit from the line. Back to the SSGI graph, we can see that the earthquakes follow the lunar peaks and the critical geometry. On the 15th, 16th, we had critical planetary geometry converging with a lunar peak. And that's why I said that 16, 17 would probably be more critical. And likewise, we had some critical planetary geometry. And then we had a lunar peak, 14 on the index on the 19th. Arguably, I could have said 19, 20th to be on the safe side. But this seismic activity was pretty much anticipated. What to expect for the coming week? We have 5 planetary alignments from the 22nd to the 29th. Most notably, the 24th and 25th with Mercury, Sun, Neptune and Venus, Mars, Uranus. But I'd say that Mercury, Sun, Jupiter is also critical, and also Mercury, Mars, Uranus. So we have these 4 alignments involving Mercury and Venus. And if we look at the SSGI chart for the coming week, we see the lunar peaks, a high lunar peak on the 22nd, 23rd, 18 on the index. And it is more or less preceded by critical planetary geometry involving Mercury and Venus. And this comes on top of the Earth-Sun-Venus alignment that I also covered in the previous forecast. The 2 alignments on the 24th and 25th also involving Mercury and Venus, followed by a lunar peak 12 on the index on the 26th. And also critical planetary geometry involving Mercury on the 27th and on the 29th. And here on the 29th, that's Mercury, Mars, Uranus. That coincides also with a lunar peak 12 on the index. It's difficult to say when larger seismic activity is most likely to strike. It could be on the 23rd, 24th following the high lunar peak, but it might as well happen with the second lunar peak following additional critical geometry on the 24th, 25th. And that would make possibly 25, 26, 27 more critical. And to be honest, with this critical planetary and lunar geometry from the 22nd to the 26th, I really do not know what to think of the planetary and lunar geometry on the 29th. In the solar system, we see Mercury, Mars and Uranus in alignment. Keep in mind that with the largest earthquakes on the record in 1960, magnitude 9.5, Valdivia, Chile, and 1964, Alaska, these 3 planets were in an alignment. But usually Venus is also involved. Well, it was involved with the Sun and Earth, and also on the 25th, Venus, Mars, Uranus. And because these 2 alignments are relatively close in time, Venus, Mars, Uranus on the 25th, and Mercury, Mars, Uranus on the 29th, this could be a significant alignment here on the 29th. Could be. And that means that there is the potential for a major seismic event on the 29th, 30th or 31st of October. This is actually somewhat comparable to 1964, but not quite. If we take a quick look at 1964, and we have to go back in time here, and that was on March 28th UTC time. It was the 27th in Alaska. Complete different configuration of planetary positions here, but we can see that if we look from Mars, Mercury, Venus and Uranus were in an alignment right there. So Venus was very much part of this alignment, a quadruple alignment to be exact. That's not going to be the case this time. If we look at the 25th again, we see that first Venus is in alignment with Mars and Uranus, Mercury a bit to the left, and then 4 days later we see that Venus has moved to the right, Mercury also, and then Mercury is in alignment with Mars and Uranus. So this is not the same powerful configuration as we had in 1964, but still, because these alignments are only 4 days apart, as you can see here, and also because Venus was in alignment with the Sun and Earth, I'd say there is a slight possibility of a megafrost earthquake in the final days of October. But I emphasize a slight possibility, and that would mean magnitude 8 or larger, potentially magnitude 8.5 or larger. And I think it also depends on what happens in the coming week, following the first 2 lunar peaks. Again, this is a big question mark here for me right now, from the 29th to the 31st. In any case, keep an eye on the lunar peaks and the 2 days approximately following those peaks, because clearly they are preceded by critical planetary geometry involving Mercury and Venus. So we could see increased seismic activity throughout the week, seismic activity approaching magnitude 6 or even exceeding magnitude 6, mid 6, high 6 magnitude, maybe magnitude 7, very well possible with one of these 2 lunar peaks. On the website you can find the magnitude probability, which is updated regularly, the latest forecast video, and also the SHI graph for the coming week. In addition, you can find updates on Telegram and on Twitter. Be safe everyone, until next time.